Are we on? Okay. All right. Folks, I know some people are still coming in, but I want to go ahead and start because you're in for a fascinating evening. First of all, welcome to the Keene Seventh-day Adventist Church. I'm glad that so many people have showed up. Tonight, our speaker is a man who went through World War II, but not just World War II. He was in Nazi concentration and death camps. He survived that. He came to the United States after the war, ran a successful business in Dallas for 45 years, I think. 44 years. There you go. And he has spent the last several years going around and talking about his experiences, which is what we're going to ask him to do tonight. I would like to open this just with a short prayer, and then I want to make a couple of announcements. If you bow your heads. Dear God, thank you for all that you've given us and for giving us this opportunity to hear from a man who has seen so much. Help us listen and learn from him. Amen. Some of you, when you came in, we gave you some blank cards, okay? You may have already written questions on it. If not, that's what they're for you to ask questions, and it will keep us from, when we get to question and answers, it will keep us from turning into a circus. About, 45 minutes from now or so, I will ask some people to collect the cards because you may hear him mention some things that you want to ask more about. So hang on to the cards, think about questions. After that, when we get more towards 8 o'clock, I will collect the cards up here and then I will do the asking. Oh yes, she doesn't want me to do this, but she doesn't even know. Professor Chloe Northrup, please stand up just for a moment. She pulled this whole thing together. She has worked and worked and worked on advertising and logistics and all kinds of stuff, and it's been a fantastic day. Absolutely. So thank you so much. Okay, folks, I'm just going to sit down up here and be quiet, and I'm going to let Mr. Jack Repp tell his story. Well, let's trade. There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Repp. I was born right in Poland. I come from a family of 4 brothers, 1 sister. I had uncles, aunts, cousins, nieces, nephews. I even had grandparents. September 1, 1939, the Germans marched in, and everything was kind of normal for the first 30 days. After the first 30 days, they came in. The school I went to happened to be an interfaith school. In case if you don't know what the interfaith school is, we had a Jewish principal, we had a priest principal, the Jewish kids and Catholic kids. And if you would have happened to have been born down there where I was born, you would have thought the entire planet just consists of 2 people. Either you're Jewish or you're Catholic. That's all. See, because Pope John Paul II and we went to the same school. And I happened to be a good friend of his. You see, I kept up with it. After him, I met Benedict XVI, Munich, Germany. I was getting around, Ladies and gentlemen, for the first 30 days, I want to tell you, in that school, everything was normal. You would have thought there was no war. After 30 days, they came in, they took out the principal, the assistant principal, all the teachers, and all the pupils, and they took them out on a work assignment. But as you know, the pupil don't know how to work. So they used the principal, assistant principal, and the teachers in order to show how the work is going to have to be done. So, but they had prepared for them is 2 places, from left to right. On both sides, they had mutton stones. You know, when you go and you pick up mutton stones, as a principal, you know, your clothes is kind of brilliant, clean, but you don't find working people looking all that clean. So they were thrown in the mud, beaten up, and then they took him out to do the work. Take the stones and mud from there, take him over there. But you see, we are not used to run. So they walk. But you see in Germany, not by the SS, not by the Gestapo, not by the Schutzpolizei, you are walking. Says, los, lauf. So they got German shepherds and SS with leather whips. They didn't run fast enough in order to show you the pupil how to work. But they wait, they got beaten, and they worked on it for about 2 hours. And after 2 hours, neither one of you was immune, so you start doing the same thing. You got the same medicine. Beating up the children, thrown in the mud, and they worked for about 3-4 hours. It was a beautiful warm day. You know, I'm not talking about eating. Forget about eating. But you will need a sip of water. So they went over to the commandant, "Can we Wasser haben?" He says, "You can have some water. We got plenty of water down here." So, but you cannot go get the water. You got to have somebody to volunteer to go to get the water. So at that time, happened to be the priest. So he came out, he's looking for a volunteer. And at that time, I happened to have been a little bit taller, a little bit more athletic. And if you know the meaning of the word fearful, I pretend that I am not fearful. I'm not even fearful now, and I'm only 45 and a piece. I'm never fearful. I don't know about fearful. So I'm the one who volunteered. You know what's happened to me? They took out 2 guys from the line. They tied up my hand. They took me over. They hung me by my hands. One assessment from one side, the other one from the other side. They beat me in the back until the blood came out. They cut me down and get back to work. So went back to work, worked on it for about 3-4 hours more. Everybody's getting hungry. They need another volunteer. Nobody wants to volunteer. That's all what's happened to me. But as you know, the priest came over and says, "Yitzhak," my name used to be Yitzhak Shepkevich. It's in America, it's Jack. "Would you go and volunteer?" You see, but I'm the type of person, I'm a very generous person. I like to share. You know why I like to share? You know, we supposed to be God's chosen people. So he chose me one time. So I had to go to a higher society, a higher grade. I talked to the Lord, "Dear Lord, you know, you've been so kind and so good to me. You choose me one time too many. You know, how about you sharing it and give it to somebody else?" You say, I don't charge for it. I give you the honor too. So, you know, some people charge you for it. I didn't. So nobody volunteered. Nobody got anything to eat. Nobody got anything to drink. We worked on it for another 3-4 hours for the 12-hour shift. Coming to go home, each one of us got beaten up, run home. We all wore the same clothes, the same uniform. Private school. I came home, my father was a very learned man. My mother, you left clean, beautiful, sparkle. You came home blooded, beaten up. Not a single word, not from my mother, not from my father. They cleaned me up, they washed me up, they give me dry clothes, set me down. And at that time, I don't think we knew anything about psychologists or psychiatrists. But if you were a smart, educated man, you try to ease a kid's mind. So my father says, listen, I had dealings with the hierarchy from the underground. They claimed that war wouldn't last 3 months. They'd be going. Let's don't worry about it. We left it at that. I was fed. I was cleaned up. Then, my father, after everything, he works on my marbles. He says, son, what kind of work did you all do? So I told him the work we did. He had a little library down in his house, Polish books and Hebrew books. So we went up and brought up a book, and I was 15 years old, not too dumb, but 15 years old. Believe me, I knew what's going on. What in the world does that book have to do with what's happened to me? But as you know, ladies and gentlemen, this book had something to do with it. You see, there was a time in history where we, the Jewish people, were slaves under the Pharaoh. And if any one of you know the meaning in Hebrew, that's called Avudim Huyini Shel Para B'Mitzrayim. That means what the Jews went through at that time. And what did he go? It goes from page to page to page to page. He arrived at a page down there, exactly what's happened that day. You see, when you take the young kids, like we were, 13, 14, 15 years old, and they did the type of work we did down there, you see, there was a time in history to go back when we, the Jews, were slaves under the Pharaohs. They did exactly the same work. Do you know what that work means? Take their minds away, take their intelligence away, cut them down so they would grow. And what do you make out of them? Slaves. Case closed. Not another word. This war is not forever. And ladies and gentlemen, next morning we went back to school. I want you to know, for the first 30 days, not a single word has ever happened anything. After 30 days they came in. You know what's happened? They took out only the Jewish children. And what did they do? They had prepared for us a slave labor camp. You arrive at the gate. Arbeit macht frei. You know what that means? Work will make you free. Was ist dein Name? What's your name? Yitzhak Shepkevich. You know what I was told? As from this moment on, your name is going to be erased. You're going to be given a number. Number 828. Häftling number 828. Do you know what that means? Prisoner number 828. If I report to work, I report, and this is my name, and this is my number. So they did that. After they did that, he was kind and generous enough. This was a person about 60 years old, with the most beautiful smile on his face. But as you know, I knew how to read them. He's going to show what your livelihood is going to consist of. So they had prepared barracks. You know what a barrack is? I come in that barrack down there, there's no beds, no tables, no chairs, just shelving. The shelving, so he tells us, this is the place where you're going to sleep. The shelf can hold about 10, 12 people. They're going to put 24 until today, 70 years after the war. I cannot lay down like a normal person straight. 1 week I lay into my right shoulder, the other week with my left shoulder. You live that type of life. So he showed you that how you're going to sleep, how you're going to live. Then it takes you out and what your livelihood is going to consist of. That means what you're going to get to eat. There's a barrel down there. Coffee. Black bread, we didn't have any white bread. So a slice of bread like you take out, to give you an example from Mrs. Bird's bread, and you get 2 cups of coffee, ersatz coffee, imitation coffee, sweeten it, saccharine. So you think, my gosh, after this breakfast, you're going to work 3-4 hours, your lunch is going to be something eatable. So you got a soup. You got the soup. If you had a pair of glasses and you were able to find down there a peel of a potato, you did good. For a little bit dirty water. So the evening you get the same thing. But you see, you got to work 12 hours a day. I work for Steyr Daimler Push Aktionsgesellschaft. You know what that is? Today, if you drive a Mercedes, you drive a BMW, or you drive a Chrysler, this goon owns it. He's down here in America with us. So, you got used to that. You know what next thing comes along the line? On this type of eating, you're going to work 12 hours a day. And if you saw me coming in down here, I had trouble with my knees. Matter of fact, on the way over down here, I was looking for a butcher shop. And I didn't know they had a blue low down here. I couldn't get a couple knees. I wanted to buy me a couple knees. But they're closed today. I didn't know it. Not even a Jewish holiday. I cannot understand the people. Closing up in the middle of the week. So, ladies and gentlemen, we live that type of life. But, you see, at that time, we didn't go no more to school. They didn't even put on, my gosh, that striped prison suits. We wore the same clothes from at home. And how long can you wear that clothes? That is your towel, and that is your blanket, and that is your bedspread, and that's your pillow, and you wear it day in and day out. You see, ladies and gentlemen, the worst thing is dirt. You see, from dirt, you get all kinds of diseases because you got lice. They eat your life. Sorry, I hope I didn't disturb your supper. You just got through eating. I know. I'm sorry I said that. I shouldn't. You live that type of life. But you see, after this, you go to work. And at that time, I was 15 and a half years old already. You know what kind of work I did? I worked on a machine gun. But you see, the work we did done as 12-hour shifts. We had to clean up the department to get ready for the next shift. So we had to take out the trash. But as you know, country I was born in, Poland, you had lots of people, which with the kids I played soccer with. The parents used to be friends with my father. They used to do business with us. They all wearing swastikas. Poles. See, it's very easy, my gosh, to change. You don't know from who to hide, from whom to show yourself. But after a few weeks, there were about 25 of them picking up the trash. There was one man down there, always had a little smile on his face. I was very good on reading faces. Matter of fact, even today, I can see a lot of things, see a lot of people you saw already today in school down there. Now lots of new faces. But this guy, I have to take a chance on him. I made him a compliment. You always got a beautiful smile. You look like such a nice person. Well, finally, he asked me, what type of work do you do? So I told him I work on a machine gun. This. So he, I guess, entrusted me like I entrusted in him. He told me he's from the underground, he's a partisan. Well, you see, at that time, I needed something from him. I had two of my brothers in Warsaw, on iron papers. Jews, but on iron papers, you know. I said, I tell you what, if you go to Warsaw, you bring me back a letter from there, I think I will entrust everything in you. He went Friday. He went to Warsaw, came back Monday, brought me back a letter from there in Hebrew, which he couldn't read it, but I could. And I said, I'll tell you what, from now on, I became a thief. See? Openly, I confess, I was the finest thief there is. You know why? I used to steal parts in the department where I was working, from the machine guns, from the raw material to the finished material, every day for 3, 4, 5 machine guns. I take it out for him. He took it out for the trash. And for this, I got every day a couple slices of bread, an apple, a pear. He kept me alive. We did that for quite a while. But, you see, in 1937, I'm going back before the war even started, there was a treaty signed. The treaty was signed between Molotov and von Ribbentrop. It was a non-aggression pact with a provision in it. I never been to a school down to learn law. I was a kid. What was the provision? The provision was a division. September 1, 1939, the Germans marched in. The Russians came from the other side, and they divided Poland. That's the division. The treaty was signed between Molotov and von Ribbentrop. That's between Hitler and Stalin. And everything was cool. You know, we worked down there. But in 1942, 2 years on the war going on, Hitler decided he needs some colonists. Where did he get it from? He got it from Britain. You know why? Britain spread it out all over the world to have colonists down there. So, they came and they were on Russia. When they were on Russia, they came to the ammunition factory and brought all the people from the ammunition factory, the Jewish people, back to the camp, we had a roll call. And what happens? You see, they will come out and they will tell you the Russians are coming. If the Russians are coming, we're going to be free. But they keep a good eye on you. If you have a little smile or a little crack on your face, happy, you're not going to be free. They take you out, take you to the fence, shoot you. I suppose very easily, you know. Life didn't have no value. But at the same time, when they got over with that, the angel of death arrived. And what do? We go through the selection. Before the selection started, the men came down from the tower, the guard, and a kid which I went to school with from day one, Morris Rappaport, had played with his mouth. You see, when we left home, regardless how rich or how poor a family came from, the mother could take off her earrings or maybe a ring, sew it in, and you might get in a place where you're going to get a piece of bread for it. So he comes down, he says, what did you play with your mouth with? He says, what I played with my mouth with? I found a bean on the ground, and I was hungry, and I just put it in my mouth. We ate that. You know what he did? I was from the right, took out another kid from the left, took out two guys from the middle. We tied up his hands, took him over to the fence, and, he took out his bayonet and handed it to the guy next to me. Open up his stomach. So he opened up his stomach. He says, you get in and you find that bean. I went in and I found the little diamonds. I cleaned it up and I handed it to him. You would have thought at that time, if we left the guy by the fence down there, I'm going to come back in the line. I'm going to be immune. I'm next in line. So Dr. Mengele, that's the angel of death, comes, checks me out, gets into my mouth, and I give you my word of honor until today. I didn't even know I had that. Had a little gold feeling in my tooth. You know what I did? Took out two guys that didn't take me to the fence, tied up my hands, give another guy a pair of rusted, dirty pliers. Start pulling out every one of my teeth, including my gum. I went back to work, but my mouth was bleeding. You know, I had to use my own urine to rinse my mouth. But if you have years to live, you see now you got to have antibiotics, you got to have penicillin, you got to have that, you got to have that. If you have years to live, you survive everything. And I survived that. But from 17 years old until I was liberated, I didn't have a tooth in my mouth. But the war was over. I'm not at the end of it. The war was over. I weighed 69 pounds. Well, I had typhus from the cold, from the dirt, from the lies. You know what's happened? Well, I had typhus, and with that typhus, they came. The crematorium was burning people 24 hours a day. They lined us up at the crematorium. But you see, there's such a thing as called God works in mysterious ways. We might think there's nobody down there, but there's somebody there. You see, At that time, people came and they started hollering, "You are free, you are free, you are free." Could I speak English? Could anyone speak English? No. But you see, there's always something happens. There's always an angel. You know who showed up? A man with 2 pieces of gold on his shoulder. You know what he said? "Otzlich kamoire sind alle freie Menschen." You know what that means? Don't you all be afraid. You'll have free people. What they did, I'm taking out something from the end. This is not what's happened. But what they did with us, you look at soldiers coming down there, you cannot tell a uniform, you cannot tell a helmet, you cannot tell the shoes, the boots, whatever they wear. Plastic and of everything. See that lice and typhus is very contagious. They took us, they cleaned us up. They took over the German hospitals, put us in there. Stayed down there 4 months. I weighed 69 pounds. And I was, ladies and gentlemen, recuperated. And I had papers to come to America. And I didn't want to come here to America. You see how beautiful everything is? I still don't want to go to America. The American consulate come to me. He says, "How come you don't want to go to America?" And as educated, I thought an educated person knows everything. I said, "I have a debt to repay." Do you think he knew what a debt to repay means? No, he didn't know that. So he says, "You know what? We should have left you down there in Dachau, dying." I said, "Thank you." And after the 4 months stay in the hospital down there, ladies and gentlemen, you know who's came to see me? The Secret Service. Not as a fugitive, not as a guy that did something wrong, but I didn't know I'm going to be very popular. They found out I can speak Russian, Czech, Yugoslav, Polish, German, Hebrew, and English with an accent. Took me 90 days to learn. I know how your people are. You got to school a long time. Took me 90 days. See, for good behavior, I was a fast learner. And so I started working for them. And thank God, I worked for them for 4 years. I didn't want to come to America. But you see, there's one thing. I have gained something from it. My parents didn't just die. You see, when I saw you, I remembered you. If you committed any kind of atrocity, and I have seen it, I remembered that too. So I was working for the Secret Service hunting Nazis. You hunting dogs? I hunt Nazis. See how nice I am? And I had an American chauffeur, you know. And I ate with the officers in the mess hall. And I slept in the accommodations together with them. And I even wore an American uniform. See? But I tell you what. After 4 years working for them, I brought in lots of high-ranking Nazis because I wore the same uniform. I was at every tribunal, and they had the highest price, legal defense money can buy. You take a little Jewish boy down there, you were 15 years old, you say. When we picked you up, you had typhus, you weighed 69 pounds. You say you remember? At that time, there was not the Alamo. I remember him too. That's the same guy. But I told him exactly what he did, how he did, and where it's happened. And The legal department wants to make you crazy because you cannot remember. But I did remember. But you know what? My greatest honor was I was at every hanging and at every killing. But my father didn't raise no murderer. I myself would get my fingernail dirty to kill that bastard down there. But I tell you what, before they hang you, you have to answer this guy down here a question. Do you know what the question was? How could you be out all day long, commit the atrocities you have committed, then go home, touch your wife, or pick up your kid, say, I love you? You know what the answer was? I'm afraid of the Führer. Ich schlag meine Frau kaputt. If I get an order from Hitler, I kill my wife. See, nice way with a smile, I hand the rope back to the hangman. I says, now be my guest. But not me. You know why? Because I was not raised up to be a murderer. And two wrongs don't make a right anyway. But, see, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get away from that. But to go back to where I got into that, from Radom, if you recall, I told you, when they pulled my teeth, then they took us out on a dead march, with not a tooth in my mouth, with bleed in my mouth, using my own urine to rinse my mouth. We go out. What's happened? From there, finally, we got some boxcars. We arrived from Wyhing and Enns. We arrived in Hessenthal. We arrived in Hessenthal. A person comes out, must have been about 60 years old, with the most beautiful smile on his face, with the biggest laugh you ever saw in your life. Häftlingen, that means prisoners. I have been down here to commandant for 3 years. I have never used a bullet on neither one of you. You know, I give you my word of honor, this guy, I could read him better than a book because I learned how to read sadists. You know what? If we're going to be through with this case, let's wait until tomorrow. He's not going to kill nobody with no bullets. So next day we come out in the morning on that roll call, and what happens? Morning, Häftlingen. Good morning, prisoners. Did you all sleep good? Yeah. They brought them out a plate with the finest toast you have ever seen. In case if you don't know what toast is, it's a Viennese pastry by 5-6 layers. I used to live down there in Vienna too. Vienna, Prague, Budapest, I used to go back and forth. But you see, he told you he's not going to use no bullets. So he takes a pretty good piece and puts it in his mouth. We've got 5,000-6,000 hungry lions. He takes a pretty good sized piece, drops it down on the floor. Got 5,000-6,000 dead, hungry lions. You know, they're going to run for that piece. Comes to get napped. Find my gosh, 80, 100 people laying dead. So you see, if I can kill with that piece of cake 80, 100 people, I'm going to go behind the fence, and I'm going to take some radishes, frozen one, by the way. Throw in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, throw in about 25 of them. 5,000, 6,000 people around, so each one is hungry. Hungry lions. To pick up maybe a piece from it. You know what happens? Comes to get napped. There's 150 people laying dead. You see, that man was so honest, he didn't lie. He just didn't tell the truth. That's how you kill him. Stayed down there in that camp for a little while. You know, and God works in mysterious ways. There came music, the most beautiful music to my ears. You know what they were? Bombs. They're onto the shelter. They leave us on the outside. After they bomb a bunch of buildings, they always need some people to volunteer. I volunteered the first one, even if I'm 99% dead. You know why? I'm not going to go look for your bombs. I go to your kitchen down there. In your kitchen, I find something to eat. So I'd like to help. And you know, we stayed down there a little while. Stayed down there a little while. The bombed so hard, we got to go out another dead march. My shoes, I lost the wooden soles on them. So my feet were wrapped with paper and wire. See, that's the reason you saw me coming in, and I took a slow boat to China. I mean, with my niece. You didn't see that, did you? You did. I told you this person. So same person, I'm telling you. And so you see, but I have learned. By all this, I learned something. Every place. So from there, they take us out. Where do we go for another death march? From Hessenthal, they take us out, and we walk. Finally, they get some boxcars, put us in the boxcars, and after a couple, 3 days, I don't know how many days we've been in the boxcars. In the middle of the night, the doors open up. 2 men came up down there with Red Cross bands. You know what the Red Cross bands were? They were from the Swiss Red Cross. And you see, whenever you saw something like this, you've been incarcerated as long as I was down there, your mind works in different directions, because I always have in mind that sadist is waiting for a chance to take me out. What does he tell you? He don't call you Häftlinge. Meine liebe Leute, my dear light friends. The war might be at the end. You all might be free. If you can remember anything at all, tell me. You know, 77.5% I was dead. So how much have I got to risk more? So I'm going to risk what have I got. So I remembered in 1937, that's 2 years before the war broke out, I happened to have been at that time Bar Mitzvah in Judaism. You're 13 years old, you become Bar Mitzvah. So we got letters from America, from my uncle and aunt, got letters from France, and from other countries which I had relatives. So I got from my uncle a letter down here, and I remember like today because I was safe in the stamps, and then I was interested in the check in the inside too. Same sports department store, Greenville, Texas, price talk. I could read. Took off the stamps, took the check, fine. My sister lived in Paris, France. Got a letter, did the same thing. Look at the envelope, 34 Rue La Marché, Police 5. Took off the stamps, took out the check, fine. And you see from several places like this. I think they can hear me. You see, I'm 39 years old, but my voice is good. But you want me to use this?
Yeah, I think so. They're telling me.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate very, very much. Is that in Russian? Увидим, сказал, пропой. Oi. Don't be worried. Everything's going to be all right. All you need to say, oh, yeah, that's it. But you see, ladies and gentlemen, at that time, things has to go on. They left. They closed up the doors. Invited to take us from there. They took us to Black Forest. You get down to the Black Forest, there's no buildings, dark in the trees. Your clothes is wet, you're cold, you're 90% dead. You stayed down there a little while. But they started bombing down there. When they started bombing, it was the most important thing for me, because I'm going to find something to eat. I'm not going to look for your bumps down there. So I got in the kitchen down there, one kitchen, my gosh, I found a cooked meal. And I pulled the whole thing in. I had I didn't have a belt. I had a wire wrapped around my waist. I poured the whole thing in my pants. I swear. And then I started eating down there. From the floor, from any place. Brought it back. My gosh, I shared it with some guys which I've been friends with. How? The last minute, the last bite, we got caught. Where did you get that? On the outside. Each one of us got beaten. They didn't kill us. Everything was fine. We stayed another few days down in the Black Forest. And this time, ladies and gentlemen, they're going to give us the last march. You know where they marched us in? To Dachau. I arrived in Dachau. My feet couldn't carry me because they were barefooted. You were dead with typhus. What do they do with you? They line you up by the crematorium. When they line you up by the crematorium, ladies and gentlemen, the crematorium burns people 24 hours a day. Still, if you have a little bit of belief, God works in mysterious ways. There came people from outer space. You couldn't tell their uniform. You couldn't tell who they are. There was no roll call. They start hollering, "You are free, you are free, you are free." Did I speak English? My father didn't speak English. My mother didn't speak English. I didn't speak English. Nobody could understand. But you see, there's always an angel in heaven. There came an angel with 2 pieces of gold on his shoulder. You know what? He could speak. Als dich kamoire sind alle freie Menschen. You know what that means? Don't you be afraid, you'll have free people. Jewish. What did they do with us? They loaded us up on trucks. They took us down to a place and dressed us. I thought they were going to put us to the crematorium. It was not clothes which they would keep. They burned our clothes. They washed us. They cleaned us up. The first time in 6 years, I laid in a bed. People are nice. With 69 pounds, with not a tooth in my mouth, with no mind. You know what's happened? We are talking about philanthropical people in the world. Thank God I'm able to do that myself too. They put on pajamas on us. After a couple, 3 months being there, I had on a pair of little slacks, a little pair of pants, a little shirts, a pair of shoes, socks. You know what I did? The first time in 6 years, I went down to the bathroom by myself. I came in the bathroom down there. I give you my word of honor. In 6 years, I haven't seen a piece of paper for years or a mirror. There was a mirror on the wall, piece of paper. Has any one of you ever spoken or talked to a mirror? I did. See how intelligent I am? And what did I say? What do you talk to a mirror? You know, the first thing I asked, viahin solakain. You know what I said? Where should I go? I knew to Poland, I had enough information not to go back down there. But my mind dictated me something else. You know where I went? I went back to the place where I was liberated, in Dachau. I arrived in Dachau. There was a young man down there. Now I know it's called Pulengard. And I talked to him, and everything I talked to, he said, uh-huh. I must have talked to him for 20, 25 minutes. Pulls out a piece of chocolate. I did what was supposed to, because I didn't open up a month, 6 weeks later, and give it to me. And you know what he says to me? Go home. I don't have the home. So I left this young man alone. I went over to the other guard, and the other guard listens to me, and the same thing, and pulled out a little package, but that big. Maybe 2, 3 months later, I opened it up. It's called chewing gum. You all didn't know it. I put it in my packet too. And I talked to him, and then it says the same thing, go home. I lay down on the grass, and I give you my word of honor. I cried so hard. I saw him picking up the telephone, and who do you think showed up? The angel with the 2 pieces of gold. Was 50? An American captain. Later I knew what it was. Took me 90 days to learn English, but I learned fast. You know, he took me up to his office. Was 50? I said, I would like to see, maybe I can get some kind of work. Oh, yeah. You know what he did? He took me down to the kitchen. There was a barrel. There was a sack down there. There was a knife down there. And what kind of job did he give me? To peel potatoes. You know, my dear people, each one of you probably heard of Rockefeller, but I think I was bigger than Rockefeller. You know why? I used to pass by a sewer, and there was a little dirty peel laying from anything. I was so hungry, I put it in my mouth. So they told me to peel potatoes. Ladies and gentlemen, I peeled the potatoes that thick. Do you think I put them in the barrel? Put them inside my shirts. I didn't steal nothing. I'm not that type of person. But I got caught. So believe me, I knew the penalty for it. So I started crying. And they took me up. The guys couldn't speak German down there, couldn't speak Jewish or Polish or Russian or Czech or Yugoslav. They took me up to the guy to Vosastigati. So I told them the truth. I said, you know, when you give me that job, I was just like a kid. You send them in to a toy shop. I got vile. I cut them potatoes, my gosh, that thick, put in my shirts. He took two soldiers. They took me up. They showered me. They cleaned me up. They dressed me up. You know what they did? They put on an American uniform. So now I'm an American. See, I'm not like you. So he took me back. And I said, why in the world, after stealing it, taking me back down there comes a young man out of nowhere. And his sleeve was full of stripes. He only got two pieces here. He got so many on the sleeve. What kind of general is that? The first time, ladies and gentlemen, in 6 years, that young man reaches out to shake hands with me, and I give you my word of honor, I start crying. I was afraid. His name was Joe Stilecki. He told me his parents are of Polish extraction. He can speak a little bit Polish. And he started talking to me. We became very friendly. So I had a Jewish captain now, a good friend, and that Polish general, I didn't know what it was. I found out it's called a mess sergeant, Meister sergeant, mess sergeant, something. The guy, he got plenty to eat. So I made friends. I got two friends now. But what's happened? He took me back to the same thing. And believe me, I give you my word of honor. I peeled potatoes thinner than this piece of paper down here and put everything in the barrel. I don't want to be caught no more. They were nice to me. But I look around, God bless America, there was a table on the corner down there. The most beautiful cakes you ever saw in your life. Nobody down there. You know, I went over down there. You know what I did? I stole the whole package, went under the table. I didn't need a sip of water, thank God. And I ate up the whole thing down there. But my last bite, I got caught. I said, this time they're going to hang me. Yeah, I'm telling you the truth. You see, I survived because I'm 45 and a piece now. So I must have survived. So you know what's happened? Why did you do that? Why did you steal? You know, ladies and gentlemen, if you're incarcerated for 6 years, you have a dream, you have a jealousy. That captain, you know, the two pieces of gold. What is your dream? I looked at him as I fulfilled my dream. You know, I had a dream of one day to have a whole loaf of bread and be able to eat up the whole thing. The guy hugged me and kissed me. Who were you jealous down here? What is there to be jealous down here in that camp? You know, ladies and gentlemen, you know what I was jealous at? I was jealous at the butterfly. That butterfly was able to sit down and get away. I couldn't. Thank you very much. You've been a wonderful audience. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Folks, we're going to have a question and answer session. The cards that they handed you at the start, some folks are going to come around now and pick those up, and then they're going to bring them back up to me, and I'm going to ask some questions for a while. Are you okay? Are you good? While they're picking up the cards, are both of these mics on? No, just one. While they're picking up, that's fine.
You didn't know that.
It's all right.
See, I'm not that type of person.
I know.
Keep it to myself. But you know.
While they're picking up the cards and running them forward, I'm going to ask you just a couple of things, okay? You mentioned your siblings, and you told me a story earlier about your youngest brother, I believe.
Well, my
Could you
favorite friend is-
relay that?
I come from a family, and I believe in dying once. Even now, I'm not afraid of anything. But, you see, if any one of you recalls, in 1943, there was an uprising, Warsaw. The Jewish ghetto stood up against the Nazis. My brother Saul, and another young man, were the ones that organized that riot. I had a little brother, Jacob, Yankel and Jewish. When the war broke out, he was 5 years old. When the uprising was, he was 7 years old. See that little kid down there? It must be in our blood. With 7 years old, you know what that kid did? You know what a carrier is? He was delivering weapons through the sewer. And at that day, the Germans lost more Germans down there than they lost on the Russian front. And I lost both my brothers down there. But I'm so proud of what they did. You know why? We are not a dead people. See how I do this down here, ladies and gentlemen? For money, I wouldn't come down to speak to you. Without the money, I'm more than happy to share this, because I tell you what's happened to 6 million men, women, and children? I go to the most educated of you all, and I'm going to say that. You know, the first thing I tell them, there were 5 million others. There were 11 million people murdered. And who do you think I was told the 5 million are? Does anyone have an answer maybe for that? I beg your pardon? Huh? The Jews were the 6 million, but you got 5 million others. I'm not going to charge you for it. Heck, there might have been some Catholics too, but that was 5. You see, the answer I'm getting, and I go among generals, I go to Fort Hood and Fort Seal, and I go to Texas Tech, the colleges, SMU College, you know. But you know what the answer I get? There must have been homosexuals, gypsies, and undesirable. But I tell you what, that was them. But you know, the 5 million others were people, my gosh, with minds, educators, just like the Jews. God knows how many Einsteins that left. There was 1,300,000 kids. God knows how many Einsteins that we lost down there. In any field. Yeah.
Okay, now I have some questions here. It's 8:10. You have to go to about 8:30?
Take another few minutes, I don't mind.
Okay. Let's
I'm not gonna
see.
charge you for it.
Okay.
You don't have enough money.
Do you have a death camp prisoner tattoo number?
My favorite friend, I went through 6 camps. And in each camp, if you recall at the beginning, where they erased my name, and I was given a number 828, in every camp, including Dachau and in Buchenwald, They knew my number. I don't have a tattoo.
Did your age affect you in the Holocaust? In other words, you were what, 15 when you went in?
I was 15 years. I came out, I was 21.
Do you think that they, because you were younger, did they have you do other things that they would not have tried to get an older person to do?
There was no such a thing, young or old. You know, I just got through give my testimonial to the BBC. You know what that is? British Broadcasting Corporation. The questions were the women treated better than the men? Well, I tell you what, when Hitler raised his people, he raised sadists. Sadists doesn't make no difference how young you are, how old you are, or how much brains you got education. You know why? Because you're getting a charge of you doing his job. You have heard me down here, I was saying, before they hung them, I got the rope in my hands. And, you know, and I asked them a question. How could you be out all day long, commit the atrocities you have committed? Then you go home, you touch your wife and your kids. And what did he answer me? I'm afraid of fewer. On the orders of Hitler, if he tells me to kill my wife, I kill her too. I say, hang him. See? I don't mind, I share things. Yeah. Huh? No kidding. You know, you must have been here before Columbus. You see, I remember the Alamo. And I learned to know all about the ocean blue and the long prairie, and I've never been a day in a school in America. Took me 90 days to learn English, but with an accent, you see. But speaking, I can speak.
This kind of ties into that. What was it like for you to adjust to living in America?
Well, my favorite friend, you know, when I came down here, I lived 4 years in a better life than a lot of people down here in America because I had an American chauffeur driving me, and I lived and I lived with the officers, and I ate in the officers' mess hall, and I wore an American uniform. I didn't want to collect even to give me a salary because for my knowledge they wanted to pay me. I said I don't accept money for that.
Did the Holocaust increase or weaken? Did the Holocaust increase or weaken your faith in God?
Well, I tell you what. You see, there's such a thing, it's called bystanders. You know what a bystander is? You see, if you see a crime committed and you don't report the crime, you see, I never been to law school, but you're an accessory to the crime. So you see, at that time, in my mind, God was a bystander. Doesn't make no difference if it's Jesus or Moses. And at that time, before I would say, I really believe in you. I believe in God. I tell you what, by me, being 91 years old, and I go every Sunday, I go to another church. And in every church I go in, I make a prayer. And I pray to God. But I don't give it a label. When I come out, you know, the first question I'm asked, Mr. Repp or Jack, you must have got converted. You see, with all due respect, I do respect God very, very much because you heard me lots of times bringing up God down here while I was speaking. But with me, if you have seen an atrocity committed, and you didn't report the atrocity, you were just as much to blame as the one committed the atrocity. So at that time, in my mind, in my young mind, I thought, whether Jesus or Moses, they must have saw what's going on, what they do with people. You know, I was talking about the 6 million men, women, and children, Jews. But I took out the 5 million others, non-Jews. And you saw the label by the people that were put against the 5 million. And the 5 million were educators. But you see, there's one thing alive. And I learned about the German. See, if you don't have a brain, all I need to do is just give you a shuffle. You dig a ditch. Believe me, it doesn't take long to push you in it. So, you see, I learned the good and I learned the bad, but I didn't use the bad. I used the good. You know why? You see, even my business, and I had a very good business, a big business, for 44 years. If you came in my store, you were barefooted. That's my upbringing. I saw to it. I didn't put a $25, $30 pair of shoes on you, but I put something on your feet. If it was cold lights was down here before, and you came in, you didn't have on a sweater or you didn't have on a jacket, at least before you got out of my store, I put a sweatshirt on you, put a cap on you. Why? If you're hungry, I'm going to feed you. And that's the life I live. I still live my life that way. And thank God I raised my kids. They came out with very good education. Even Bush came down to where I live. See? Yeah, the president lived not too far from me. You see, you know why? Because I must be a good man.
George W. Bush lives across the street, right? Yeah. If you explain to them what you mean when you say you're 45 and a piece.
Well, as you know, I'm not too educated. I could tell them I'm 19 years old, not 45 and a piece. I'll tell you why. If you know how to handle it, to move around things, you put the 9 in the front and the 1 in the back, how do you come out? Huh? You are good. You are good. And you see, if you take 45 in a piece, you got 2 sides. In one side, 45 in a piece, another side, 45 in a piece. You see, 45 and a half and 45 and a half. Come out at 90 years old. But you see, it doesn't matter how young you are or how old you are. Hitler took everything from me. But if at 91 years old, I can go to Texas Tech or go down to Fort Hood and Fort Seal and get acquainted with 5,000, 6,000 people and talk to them, and I still can give them an answer, not out of place. So I'm grateful and thankful to God. And thank God, God bless America, believe me. I had a very good life down here, and I had a very good life after I was liberated. You know why? You always got to give. Why do I have things to give? You see, when they came to me, and they offered me a salary. And I say, for a salary, I'm not going to work for you. I don't do this not enough for mom. I don't get paid for that. For money, I would not do it. For a good deed, I will do it. You know why? Let me tell you something. You see, if I can go in 2 military bases down there and lecture for several thousand people, and for the last 10 years, they ask every year for me to come. So repeat performance, you see. Well, you heard me before. No, I want you, Mr. Repp. And thank God, that makes me feel good. I go down to Texas Tech, that makes me feel good. Go down to SMU, that makes me feel good. You know, but the most important people I like to speak to people which they give me their life, my life. They give their life too. You see, my guts, you probably never heard that before in your life, are two people. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, General Patton, and all the angels which they have been at in the Second World War. That's the veterans. They went out to give their life, to lay their life in order to save our life. But you see, I don't know how you are situated in religion, but I'm going to tell you from the Talmud. That's the Jewish Bible. You see, when you go out, you risk your life. You are prepared to lay your life. You save a life. You see, when you save one life, you save the entire planet. But I tell you what, whenever you find a person living in the United States of America, when I first came down here to America, and he was talking against America, thank God I had the money, and I would buy him a one-way ticket to send him out of here. See how nice I am? You got to do charity, and that's how you do your things. I don't know about you, but that's me.
I'm going to make this our last one because it's 8:20. I've got several questions here that kind of all ask the same thing. So here it is.
And I'm in the languages.
You can do it in Texan.
Listen, I'm not going to go out picking cotton, chopping cotton, but pulling cotton, or raising cotton. You brought them for a different purpose down here. That's what the guy tried to do to me.
Mm-mm.
I'm going to
Okay.
tell my kids on that.
What do you feel is the most important lesson you have to teach us about life that you learned from your experiences during the war?
Now, I'm going to go back to my parents, my father and my mother, how they brought me up. And then I had a pretty good sized business down here. I had a department store. And I told you, my things do. If you're hungry, I'm going to feed you. If you're barefooted, I'm going to put something on your feet. If you're cold, I'm going to put something on your back. And sometimes, I know you got lots of hair. If you need a cap or something, a toboggan, or maybe a pair of gloves, I give you that too. I'm not that type of person. See, God works in mysterious ways. If you give, you get. And I believe in that. It must be good. God is very good. I'm not taking away from God anything. You know why? If you can last 44 years in a business, and every day catching a half a dozen people shoplifting, I never had one of them arrested, then you must have been doing something good. But I tell you what, next time you come into my store, you used to say, Mr. Jack, I ain't going to steal in that store, don't you? See, because I'm nice. But that's the life I'll live. If somebody's hungry, feed him. And if you can do something for somebody, don't be distant yourself. Do it for them, regardless, race, color, nationality, religion, whoever it is. That's my life.
I think that's a good place for us to end this evening. I want to thank you folks again for coming out. There's so much from everything he said that we can all learn. I want to thank you, Mr. Repp, for coming.
I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the way you all received me down here, for the kindness and for the goodness, especially this lady down here. God bless her. Her husband, You are very kind people, good people. But for money, I wouldn't come to work for you.
It's okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, folks.